Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Full and Thriving, a podcast to help people pleasers and perfectionists who want to reconnect with their true selves, reclaim their voice, and live boldly. I'm your host, Meg McCabe, and today I'm here to convince you that failure is actually one of the healthiest things that you could encounter in your life. And today we will be talking about the 3 scientifically proven ways that failure and making mistakes can actually improve your life. I know this because this has been quite evident in my own life. Now, if you're a people pleaser or a perfectionist, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, hell no. Immediately no. I cannot fail. What would everybody else think? I can't just do something and fall flat on my face. I couldn't bear the judgment, the shame. I can't bear the thought of not doing something perfectly or doing something the way that people expect me to. And I just have to say, if those are the thoughts that come to your mind when you think about failure or making a mistake, I have to say that I used to be you too. And sometimes this still comes up for me. I used to be afraid of failure and seek perfection in everything. And when I was keeping myself in a perfectionistic, people-pleasing box, it actually caused so much more harm to me in the long term because I was doing everything I could to make sure I was living life according to everybody else's rules. And that put me in some situations that were not a true reflection of me. And throughout my lifetime, I've built up this resilience around taking risks that are important for me to get closer to being my most authentic self. And what has been so special about this process is that it is a sloppy, messy, sometimes chaotic one that involves a lot of moments where I fall flat on my face and actually fail at the thing. So I truly deep down believe that I have a ton of experience in this. As an entrepreneur for approximately 10 years at this point, I have created programs that nobody has purchased. I have taken trainings that I never actually implement and use. I have done sales calls and consultations that led to nowhere. I've just made lots of different mistakes and failures, and I have learned from all of those. So when we dive into these 3 reasons why failure can actually improve your life today, I want you to know that I've experienced all 3 of these things. I have a question for you. Do you want to look back at your life and say, man, I really wish I started that business or took that class or switched careers or went back to school? Or would you rather be the person wondering if only maybe I should have done that? At the end of your life, would you rather be an imperfect person who can live with the peace of mind knowing that you lived as authentically as you could, or a perfect person who completely played by the rules and did everything right? Now, I know for me, this has been a core part of who I am for a very long time. My quote in the high school yearbook was by Mark Twain. It was my senior quote. And that quote was, "You will regret more the things that you didn't do than the things that you did do." And then there's more to it, but that is the gist of that quote. And I firmly believe that we all need to start living boldly and live life without regrets. And in order to do that, we have to face the potential of failing at what we want and failing over and over again until it becomes inevitable that we get it right and achieve the life that we actually want. One really interesting thing about failure, before I dive into more on why it's helpful for your life, is that the beauty of failure is that only you get to decide when the fight is over. You get to decide when to throw in the towel and give yourself an F, right? You get to decide when it's time to fail, and you get to decide when to take the loss and change the course. It's something you claim. It's not something other people get to claim. If this is something you truly want in your life, you can be resilient and keep going for that thing. And it's only up to you to determine when you are done. And for me, the determination of failure is really choosing not to do that thing anymore or realizing it was not right for you. Like I said, I created a program nobody bought. I could have kept selling it. I could have kept promoting it. I could have refined it. And it might be one of the more successful programs out there if I hadn't chosen to redirect my path. So I'm here saying when you say that you have failed something, you're also owning up to the point of, I'm done trying. As long as you don't stop trying, you will not fail. So that is something really interesting and beautiful about failure in itself. Okay, so when I was diving into the research about failure, I found something amazing, and that is that failing actually enhances learning, growth, and creativity in a person. Studies show that experiencing failure can improve learning and retention, and it can also improve memory, which is wild to me, but when you think about it, it makes complete sense. When people fail and then receive feedback, they are more likely to adjust their strategies and remember the information better than people who succeed without any errors, right? So failure can actually be a mechanism for faster learning and creative thinking and problem solving. Have you ever heard the expression, I'm learning it the hard way, or I've learned it the hard way? Well, that is what happens when you take risks and make mistakes. You learn fast, and you also have to be resourceful and come up with more ideas, which can improve creativity, right? So after time, the learning and improvements actually stick and things start to work out. In fact, once the lesson is learned, at least for me, I typically don't make the same mistake again. You can actually reapproach the same situation and create something better and more powerful than your original vision. And you might get there faster if you are learning from the mistakes you make than just consistently playing by the rules. For me, the learning that comes with making a mistake or failure is very exciting. I know that sounds weird, right? But I've always had this deep trust that when I make a mistake, I will be guided in the right direction because I am consistently learning and evolving from that. I am gathering data, gathering information, and recalibrating, thinking and seeing things that I was unable to see before. And I absolutely love the clarity it brings. And I love the opportunity to try again and do better. The lessons and wisdoms gained from mistakes that I have made me more interesting, and they've all made me a more evolved and insightful human. When you are worried about failure, just remember that failure is an opportunity to create a newer and improved version of yourself or the thing that you are attempting to do. Isn't that kind of cool when you think about it? The second scientifically proven reason why failure can actually improve your life is that it builds resilience and patience. Now, I remember when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I was like 24-ish, maybe even 23, and I felt so freaking impatient. I had this sense of urgency. I had this sense of desperation. I wanted everything to happen right away. And I had thin skin. Like I was not thick-skinned for this entrepreneurial life. I would attempt something, and then the second my inner critical voice would show up, I would ditch the project, or the second I tried to sell it for like half a day and nobody opted into it, I would call it a failure and ditch and run away and pretend it never happened. I honestly had zero sense of long-term perspective and no patience for myself whatsoever. I remember vividly that I would have conversations with my life coach at the time, and they would be like, "Why do you feel so urgent? Why is there such a sense of urgency?" And it was because I had no perspective that masterpieces and genius and brilliance and the things that are worth building take time. And your best self takes time. None of us wake up completely prepared for what life has in store for us. Our evolution is slow going, and that's okay. And so, what I love about making mistakes and facing failure is that it builds this sense of resilience and patience for the long term. You suddenly have perspective when you dive into a new project, and there's this level of dedication that comes with the experience that you have. So let's get back to the research. Psychological research indicates that overcoming failure helps build resilience, like I just said. But facing and navigating failures can actually increase your ability to cope with future adversities. I see this all the time with my eating disorder recovery clients. The more they take action, the more they begin to sort out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then they can experiment with new coping strategies, distraction techniques, and make adjustments as they go, continuously building the evidence that they are strong and can actually survive difficult moments. I will also share that my personal failures, not just my professional ones, my personal failures have increased my sense of patience for myself and for other people. Because if you are someone who has tripped up, done something wrong, has been imperfect, you're going to see that in other people and actually appreciate it, have patience for that. You're not going to be so critical of other people because you've been there too, right? So not only do you have patience on a professional level when it comes to making mistakes, but there's this patience that grows when you are an imperfect person. You have more tolerance for other people's imperfections, and that's truly a gift. And it makes you a way more interesting, lovable person who's much easier to be around. And ultimately, this connection between patience, building resilience out of failure, all comes down to the fact that being human is part of the process. We are not all Barbie dolls who come out of a plastic box and live this perfect life. Being human is part of the process and not something you need to be hard on yourself about. And finally, the third reason why failure actually improves your life in the long run is because it fosters humility and empathy. And in my opinion, it helps everyone be a little less judgmental of each other. One of the research insights says that failure makes people more understanding and compassionate towards other people's struggles. Like I was kind of saying before with the whole patience thing, letting go of my eating disorder felt like a huge personal failure. I'm going to bring it back to that because that is my life experience. But after having gone through that, I became a much more understanding and less judgmental person. I quickly realized that everybody has a background and a story. And I learned that you can never truly judge a book by its cover. I just became a way more empathetic person, recognizing that, first of all, on a body level, nobody can really control the way their body looks, right? So I suspended all judgment of other people's bodies from that moment moving forward. But I also suspended judgment for people struggling with mental illness, for people who reach for their dreams and don't make it, for people who go down the wrong path or make decisions that aren't right for them. I became more open to talking to people about their life story. It made me more comfortable with being vulnerable with other people. I had something deep I could share with other people. And in turn, they felt close enough to disclose this sort of information to me about their own lives. So I had built this sense of empathy and this suspension of judgment, all because of that personal failure of just having an eating disorder that got so chaotic and so bad. And then I had to let go of all the dreams attached to that. And ever since then, I approach new friendships and relationships with this sense of openness and non-judgment in the discussions we have. I don't judge people by their appearance. I don't judge people by their mental illness or their past or what they've been through. For me, judgment is not part of the equation. And I think struggling, working hard, making mistakes, and evolving through difficult moments makes you this way. And one more interesting thing about how failure fosters humility and empathy is that social psychology research also suggests that individuals who have faced significant failures are often more supportive and collaborative, which enhances their social relationships and teamwork skills. So maybe it has to do with this whole empathy and humility thing. It's not just me. This is a universal impact that failure can have on a person. You just become more supportive and collaborative. And failure can transform your ability to connect to others, which I know I've experienced. And anybody who's gone through a hardship, sometimes you can lean on that hardship to connect with other people and become more relatable. I know that when I share hardships on this podcast, there is a connection that's made between me and the listener. And I'm not even seeing them face to face, but it's this idea that a person is hearing my story and seeing their story reflected in that and drawing takeaways and lessons and wisdom just by listening to mine. Okay, friends, there you have it. Those are the 3 evidence-based reasons that illustrate how failure, while it's often challenging, can play a crucial role in improving your personal and professional life. Are you feeling a little better about failing? Are you feeling a little bit better about making mistakes? Think about the person that you can become if you have the courage to take more risks in your life, or take a leap of faith, or surrender to the unknown. Maybe your evolution exists on the other side of failure. Maybe your best self, or the most important lesson you will ever have to learn, exists on the other side of that mistake, or going for the thing and not having it work out the way you want it to. In my mind, even though failure absolutely sucks, it's basically a win-win, because as long as you don't completely beat yourself up, ransack yourself, beat yourself down over it, if you can stay strong mentally through the failure and learn from it and have compassion for yourself, you will find the silver lining. You will find the lessons that needed to be learned. You probably won't make the same mistakes again. Either you take the risk and it works out, which is the ideal, right? I would love that for everyone, and it definitely happens. That's a question I always want you to reflect on. What if it does work? So either you take the risk and do the thing and it works, or you take the risk and it doesn't work, but you can evolve. You can grow. It's kind of a win-win when you think about it that way. The key is just having that self-compassion to carry you through the failure and carry you through the mistakes, and having a support system to help you get through that. Maybe you need to go to therapy for a little bit. Maybe you need to reach out to a friend or work with a coach to get you through that, to help you feel more resilient and more encouraged to keep going. But when it comes to failure, you can be your worst enemy or your best friend. And the key is to become your friend in that moment, increase the compassion, increase the kindness that you have for yourself, pick up the pieces, take in all the information and the lessons, and keep moving forward. There you have it, folks. That is my solo show for all of you today. I hope you are having a lovely, beautiful summer day. I'm literally looking outside the window and I see my cute baby blue hydrangea bushes that, by the way, I didn't plant. They came with the house, but I'm feeling so alive this summer, so excited. I hope you are too. And I'm really grateful to have you all here today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for choosing the Full and Thriving podcast. And I will see you next week.